The origins of axiology and axiometrics. The literal definition of axiology is the theory of value. It is derived from a combination of two ancient Greek words, axios meaning worth or value, and logos, logic or theory. Axiology, the science of human values, enables us to identify the internal valuing systems that influence our perceptions, our decisions, and our actions. It equips us to clearly understand why we do what we do. There are two different branches of axiology, the philosophical and the formal. So who created axiology? It has a long and distinguished lineage. It started over 2,500 years ago with the moral philosophers Plato and Socrates. Aristotle defined goodness as the activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. G.E. Moore in 1903 wrote his book Principia Ethica, adapting the title from Sir Isaac Newton's Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, written in 1686. In the 1950s, Dr. Robert Hartman was the first philosopher to bring scientific understanding and measurement of the ancient and fundamental question, what is good? He is regarded as the father of formal axiology. So who is Dr. Hartman? Robert S. Hartman was a philosopher, professor, and businessperson. He was born as Robert Shirakawa and in 1932 fled National Socialist Germany. As a judge on the Berlin circuit, he was forthright with his belief that every life is sacred and that you can't kill people for an idea. In order to flee Germany, he changed his name to gain a false passport to Robert S. Hartman, a surname he adopted for the rest of his life. He went on to accumulate PhDs in maths and philosophy. He published 12 books and wrote hundreds of articles. It was his multidisciplinary approach, researching, analysing from different perspectives, people-focused philosophy, task-focused mathematics, and systems-focused law, which enabled his discoveries into why people do what they do within the context that they are in. In the late 1960s, he sat on the board of editors for an academic journal, alongside the notable thinkers Maslow and Frankl. In 1973, the year of his death, he was nominated for the Nobel Prize. Let us return to the fundamental question, what is good? Dr. Hartman was driven by his experience in Germany in the 1930s. His quest was to define good so that good could be organised. He dedicated his life to the discovery of a science to bring order to moral decisions. Before he could do that, he had to answer the fundamental question, what is good? Is that a good organisation, a good person, idea, political system, meal or job? Hartman discovered that all value has scientific order based on transfinite mathematical sets. In doing so, he identified the principles which order and structure our moral decisions and our value judgments. The mathematical and logical structure of value concepts is the cornerstone of axiology. Hartman built a framework to define good. In trying to bring order to the disorder of moral philosophy, Robert Hartman conceived the statement, the value of anything is determined by the extent to which it meets the intention of its concept. The problem we experience is that each person's values seem to belong privately to him or her. They are unique. The science of axiology provides a solution to this problem by forming a frame of reference which can be applied to any and all situations in which we need to make an evaluation. So that is every situation. Dr. Hartman discovered that the key to value experience lay not just in the physical properties. So let's assume that you are a professional coach. You spend many hours each day on court. For you, a good shoe is a white tennis shoe, well worn, and new shoes are uncomfortable. Your valuation for a good shoe requires the fulfillment of the patterns, white tennis shoes and well worn. Now consider what is your actual requirement of a good shoe. Do you have a different concept of a good shoe? Does it have to be made of soft leather, black, a particular brand? He discovered a mathematics which reproduces your concept good shoes by measuring the particular pattern of items which fulfill your concept. Hartman's structure allows us to measure how a person thinks and perceives rather than what he or she is thinking. In other words, value science tells us what we pay attention to, what is important to us, and what our prejudices are. Axiology explains and measures the thinking which forms the foundation for and leads to behaviour. It measures behind the eyes. It understands the cause of a behaviour. The actual behaviour is after the thinking, the filtering and the decision, i.e. the effect. This could be too late. Since the early 1970s, Wayne Carpenter, a student of Hartman and now a professor, made it his life's work to develop and validate axiological analysis. In common with Hartman, he had a strong driver to understand and organise good, following his experience of the Vietnam conflict. As a young man and budding psychologist, he led a project to create a framework to equip commanders to take a more rational approach and make more effective decisions. Hartman's work became his inspiration and resource for his project, which was to create an integrated multi-level model for decision-making. After the conflict, Carpenter went on to produce his first computerized model in 1983, which has been continuously improved and validated to become the Axiometrics profile we use today. The accuracy of the Axiometrics profile has been validated since the 1980s in scientifically controlled studies in both academia and the business world by top universities and leading business. We end this video by returning to Robert Hartman. The core of Axiometrics is driven by Hartman's pursuit of good that led him to discover that not only does everything within the world, this is all people, living organisms, things and ideas, or in Hartman's terms, concepts, have a value profile made up of 3 dimensions of value, but that this value framework also applies to how we as human beings evaluate and make decisions. When applying 3 dimensions of value to human values, the 3 dimensions are intuitive thinking. This is our gut instinct, our feelings, and it typically applies to people. Practical thinking, it's about detail and problem solving or the task. Conceptual thinking, this is the idea, the concept, purpose and rules. This is the system. Hartman's discovery has meant that by using the same value framework to define good, we are able to understand how an individual sees and values something through their own valuing lens, which subsequently drives behaviour. Overcoming the limitations of trying to predict behaviour through observation, which can only get us to a very loose and broad understanding, Axiometrics enables us to accurately predict how people will behave in any given situation. It clearly understands why we do what we do. Axiometrics is a truly dynamic tool for a dynamic world. There has never been a more important time to improve the way we make decisions. These are the foundations of the Axiometrics tool that will equip us to make the right decisions in the new world. We'll explore Hartman's 3 dimensions of value in another video.